name's Kayla Del Biondo, and I'm the Digital Services Librarian at New Canaan Library. And I'd like to welcome you all to our virtual program. It's a sustainable lifestyle show and tell. The way that we thought through this is a partnership between Planet New Canaan Land Trust, and New Canaan Library, was that we originally wanted to have this in person, almost like a show and tell for like adults, where we can all talk about the different lifestyle changes we've tried to make and kind of how sustainability decisions affect us all on a personal level. And then our guest speaker for today, Annalise Paik, is going to talk a little bit about that policy level as well as the personal level with the pledges that are on her website. The way this is going to work, we're going to have like our keynote or our guest speaker, Annalise, kick it off today. She's going to speak, and then we'll leave a little bit of time after her presentation for Q&A. And then we're going to get into our sort of like community representatives, we're calling them, who are going to be guest speakers and share their personal success or failure stories in the environmental front. And the way that we're thinking of this is kind of like a mini conference. So these will be kind of like lightning talks, maybe like 8 or so minutes. We'll hold questions for the community members till the end. So we have 6 speakers there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Robin of Planet New Canaan to make some announcements before we get started. And then Erin is going to speak on behalf of the Land Trust.
Hi, I'm Robin from Planet New Canaan. I just want to welcome everyone and thank you so much for joining us on the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. If you don't know Planet New Canaan, we're an environmental group in New Canaan founded by community members. We're committed to bringing awareness about environmental issues through educational programs, outreach, and initiatives. And we do have our financial sponsorship through New Canaan Nature Center. I'm just so happy everyone's here because this was not the 50th anniversary of Earth Day that we had planned for the last year, but there's still some good that we can do. I know through this program, we can definitely show what we can still be doing. One of the things that we did want to announce that we're so happy about is we're still actually having our plant sale with Copia, which is right over the border in Lewisboro, New York. In the past, this plant sale had benefited the Nature Center with their pollinator garden, as well as Land Trust last fall. And for this spring, it's to benefit New Canaan's Bristow Bird Sanctuary. So for every $75 of native plants that you purchase, $10 worth of plants will go towards Bristow. You can also have the option, if you don't want to buy those plants, you can buy a gift of a plant for $15 for Bristow. Copia is open for outdoor shopping, not indoors, have to practice social distancing, but they're also doing curbside. So what Planet New Canaan is doing is for New Canaan residents, if you would like to order by email or over the phone with Copia, and you're buying $75 worth of natives or buying a gift of a native plant for Bristow, we will deliver your order. If they are flowers, perennials, or small shrubs. I'm not delivering big shrubs or trees, but so we're so happy that's still going on. And thank you so much for coming and seeing us today. On to Erin.
Thanks, Robin. For those that don't know me, my name is Aaron Leffland. I'm the Executive Director of the New Canaan Land Trust. And I just want to give a big thanks to our presenters who are going to be presenting this afternoon, as well as to the library and Planet New Canaan for co-hosting this event. It's been a challenging few weeks, but I'm so thrilled that we're able to gather in this virtual format and celebrate this milestone of the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. As many of you know, New Canaan Land Trust preserves are closed, but we are working to bring nature to you at home through online events, programs, and social media posts. So check out our website and social media pages for information about that. And as many of you know, also we have the first exhibition on the New Canaan Sculpture Trail, which is Passages. That's currently on view at the corner of Route 123 and Canoe Hill Road. Actually, it's sort of in the field behind me. I wish I had a more up-to-date picture of it. But you're welcome to drive by and view that sculpture installation. And later on in the year, once our trails are open again, you'll be able to meander through, and it's a pretty spectacular experience. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Kayla. Again, thanks all for joining, and enjoy.
Thanks, Erin. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Annalise, who's joining us today. Annalise Paik is committed to creating an online destination and community dedicated to helping consumers cultivate a sustainable lifestyle through sustain.com. Sustain's mission is to unite, nurture, and grow a community dedicated to sustainable living. Annalise is passionate about spreading awareness about creating a new economy that's low carbon and stops extracting and using finite resources that are destroying the planet's ability to regenerate itself. Her website contains over 50 personal sustainability pledges that people can commit to in their daily lives. Her presentation will show us how sustainability advocacy needs to happen at the policy level as well as the personal level. So without further ado, Annalise, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. It's really exciting to be able to get together this way, even though we're in the middle of the pandemic. We are also in the middle of other challenges that we need to face, namely the climate crisis, waste crisis, and sixth mass extinction. The epoch that we're in has been called the Anthropocene, and this is where humanity, that's us, we are a global force of change and not for the better at the planetary scale. So we are breaching planetary boundaries. I'm sure everyone knows that atmospheric carbon is at a dangerously high level. We know that that's from combusting fossil fuels. We also don't talk about enough the impact of agriculture, industrial agriculture, and animal agriculture in particular, and the degradation of our soil. We have an incredible amount of carbon once stored in our soil that is now in the atmosphere. And we can help reverse that, but we need to do it quickly and we need to do it on a global scale. What we do in our yards is really important, and that will help raise awareness at what needs to be done at a much larger scale. So what you do really matters, and we do also need large structural change. So we have, according to the IPCC report, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, 9 years left to rein in our carbon budget before we blow it. That's before we exceed 450 parts per million and go into 2 degrees of warming, which is really dangerous. So I want to stress right now that we are breaching the boundaries of geochemical flows, that's phosphorus and nitrogen, and those come from the chemicals that we put not only on our lawns, but we also use in animal and industrial agriculture. That the greenhouse gases that are produced by the agricultural sector, believe it or not, are more than what's coming from the transportation sector. And it also causes chemical pollution, loss of biodiversity from deforestation, depletion of natural resources, namely water and soil. A lot of us don't think of soil as being a natural resource, but it's actually a finite natural resources. And places like land trusts are actually providing ecosystem services by providing the biodiversity, providing the structure that the soil needs, providing an environment for the little microorganisms that live in the soil to do their work, and for nature's normal carbon cycle to process without interruption from man. Unfortunately, all the interruptions that we have done, overgrazing, deforestation, agricultural activity, have caused us to lose so much of our arable soil that we only have 60 years of arable soil left. We depend on the soil to live. We depend on the soil to grow our food. So we really need to think about this and say, okay, we're having more catastrophic weather events with more rain, more flooding, more wind, and those are blowing away, washing away the soil that we need to grow our food on. Animal agriculture in particular has a really high impact. Not only does it use natural resources like water, but it also requires a lot of land. So a lot of the land that's used in animal agriculture is to just grow the grain that's fed to the animals. So 70% of all the grain that we grow is used to feed animals, not people. That's really pretty inefficient. It's also really wasteful. We also know that from a couple of great documentary films. So maybe you've seen The Game Changers on Netflix, Cowspiracy, and Forks Over Knives. They basically talk about how we can thrive as humans. What's good for us is good for the planet if we move away from eating so many animals. So that's meat, dairy, chicken, etc. And unfortunately, we've been told many lies in our lives about what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing. And that includes our diet. So it's really important to understand that 14% or more of all the calories in the plants that we consume are protein. So we don't need to eat animals to get our protein. And you don't need to just eat beans and tofu. There are some really great tasting foods out there. This is one of my favorites. These are sprouted mung beans. You can buy these dried, rehydrate them for 2 hours, drain them, and boil them or simmer them for 20 minutes. And there you go. You have a delicious protein to add to stir fries, pilafs, even pasta. They're really delicious. Here's another lie that's been perpetrated, this by the American beverage industry. Some of you might be as old as I am, and you can remember the ad with the Native American with the tear coming down his face, talking about how we need to learn how to recycle. Well, that's industry messaging that externalized the cost and the responsibility of the waste that they produce onto us, society, just like BP invented the carbon footprint. So here we are guilting ourselves about our carbon footprint and guilting ourselves about recycling when it's really not true. The recycling can't happen. It's impossible. Only 1 in 2 are actually recyclable. The rest aren't. The rest are being incinerated and buried. So we really need to move to a circular economy where we've designed out waste, and an economy where the number one use of fossil fuels is not to make more plastics, to package the food and other consumer items that we purchase. This is something that is going to be addressed by Congress. Before the pandemic hit, they were attempting to address it. There are polarized views on this, clearly. One is business as usual, where we continue to try to recycle more. That is completely broken. A great fun way to learn about this while you're sheltering in place is to watch Plastic Wars on Frontline from March of this year on PBS, and The Story of Plastic, which is a documentary film that had its TV debut today. Both of those are really, you're going to be blown away after you watch them, and you will be very motivated to move away from single-use plastics towards reusables for everything. So environmental sustainability. We're going to do a little Quizlet here. Can anybody guess what this is a photo of? Go ahead and put it in the Q&A, and we'll see who got it right at the end. I mentioned the circular economy. That is where we design out waste. So we recycle food scraps, we recycle used textiles, we recycle paper, metal, all kinds of wood. We're doing this to some degree now, but we really need to reformulate things and start from the beginning, not at the end. Now we're looking at the end saying, oh, we've got all this plastic waste. What are we going to do with it? No, how can we design it from the get-go, knowing that end of life, it can have another life and another life. Glass, metal, they all have another life. They're infinitely recyclable. Plastic can only be recycled once. We also need to electrify transportation and energy. We need to stop extracting finite resources like fossil fuels that destroy the planet and prevent it from regenerating itself. And we also need to restore, not degrade, deplete, and overwhelm the very resources that support life on Earth. Food waste. This is one of my favorites. This is so avoidable. If there's anything you can do to be a climate champion in your home, this would be the top of the list. Don't throw your food waste in the garbage. Do whatever you can to reduce your food waste, because you're essentially throwing money down the drain, money in the garbage. Take your food waste out, separate it right in your kitchen, use a compost bin. This is what I use. And you can chop and drop in your yard. If you don't eat any animal products, you can do that. Chop and drop, or put it in a pile and mix in some leaves and some grass. Another one of our presenters today is going to teach you how to do vermicompost. That's the gold standard for compost. You can make your own. It's wonderful. If you do eat meat, please know they cannot go in your yard. You need to send that to an industrial composting facility. Now, you're a hero. You're part of the circular economy when you recycle your food waste, and you're also helping solve our waste crisis. So 500,000 tons, a billion pounds of food waste are incinerated every year in Connecticut, dust from households. That is a massive, massive problem. And we're robbing the soil of the nutrients that it needs to capture and sequester more carbon and put it underground where it belongs, not in the atmosphere and not in the oceans. We talked about the ocean acidification. That is a serious problem for any of the creatures that live in the ocean, including shellfish and including coral reefs. One of the really big bonuses and money-saving moves I love is when you compost, you don't need to use a plastic bag in your kitchen garbage pail anymore. Lawns. Lawns are 3 times the size of our largest commodity crop, our largest monocrop, which is corn. Imagine, just for a minute, close your eyes and imagine for a minute, if we were to replace every lawn in the United States with habitat for pollinators and edible gardens. We could feed everybody, and we could address soil fertility, water health, and restoring ecosystems so that we can support our imperiled pollinators. Lawns are resource hogs, they're expensive to maintain, and they don't support anything in nature. Let's get rid of them. Let's plant pollinator gardens. Let's support our pollinators. They are imperiled. We've started the pollinator pathway, and New Canaan has joined the pollinator pathway. If you visit pollinator-pathway.org and click on the New Canaan link, you'll see how you can join. The logo on here is on a little sign you can get for just a few dollars. I put mine outside. I'm on lawning another piece of my property, and my neighbors are wondering, what is she up to now? So I put my sign out so they know that that land is under development, and it is going to be edibles, and it is going to be more pollinator friendly plants. So you see the background here. This is milkweed, and this is a native milkweed. Buy native plants whenever you can. You want to grow for the pollinators to come and lay their eggs, to eat, to nest, etc. You want to avoid all the chemicals that you can. Just remove all the chemicals from your yard and learn how to do it naturally. Unlawn a piece of your land, put a little water source in there for the birds, a little bowl, a little dish. One of the things that I really like to do is to put edibles in the landscape. I had a bumper crop of cilantro last year, and I let it go to seed, and I took the seeds and scattered them. So I now have cilantro growing on the borders of many of my perennial beds instead of weeds. Yay! And that's actually a move that sustainable agriculture does. They put down what they call cover crops. So many of our farmers do practice regenerative agriculture. So they do low till, no till. You don't want to disrupt the soil because it releases the carbon. You want to do cover crops. Make sure the soil is always covered. Compost, and definitely don't do anything that has to do with chemicals. No chemical fertilizers, no chemical pest control, please. So some of the edibles that you can grow in your yard that pollinators really love: sunflowers, tomatoes, all different kinds of herbs, parsley and dill and fennel attract eastern black swallowtails. I had them come and lay eggs, and it was a joy to see the caterpillars, and you get to take the pictures of those caterpillars versus the monarch butterfly caterpillars and see if you can do a little sleuthing to see what the difference is between the two. I guarantee you that those pollinators and that pollinator habitat that you create are going to be a great sense of pride, joy, satisfaction, and entertainment for you and your family. Oh, peas. It's the perfect time to grow peas. Get a little packet of peas, plant them in the ground, and just make sure you have some stakes. You can see in here I have a metal grid. It's kind of old. I've had it for over 20 years. They're kind of indestructible. This is what was mentioned earlier. So if you think that you want to join the pollinator pathway, definitely participate in Copia's offering that serves as a fundraiser for Bristow. So on sustain.com, you can find 50 different personal sustainability pledges. I know we covered a lot today. It's pretty intense. Some of it might be new messaging. This is a great way for you to review some of the things we said, take some pledges, get more information, get some support. Of course, this video is being recorded and will be sent to everyone participating and everyone who's registered as well, so you can always watch it again. So just two of the pollinator pathway pledges that are on our website. One is to plant milkweed for monarchs, and the other one is to unlawn. So that is an unlawning that I did last year, and I have to say that it turned out really well. I went to Gilberti's and got a bunch of pollinator-friendly plants, and it just took off. It was the perfect location, full sun, really wonderful. So here's your personal action plan. And I'm going to get to a civic action next because I mentioned earlier, it isn't just any one person, one group of people, one country. It's the globe that's responsible for this. And right now, our government, unfortunately, is not taking the action that we need. We need to exercise our civic rights to get some changes made. Get involved locally wherever you can. Join Planet New Canaan, join land trusts. These are all wonderful things to get involved in to help out. So if you can unlawn, get rid of that resource hogging, chemical dependent monoculture, create an oasis for nature there instead, grow some of your own food. We are looking at food insecurity at an unparalleled level in our country right now in modern history. Grow some food, extra food, maybe wind up donating it to a local food bank. Reduce your food waste, compost your food scraps. If you can't do it in your own yard, you can hire curbside compost or Action Container to pick it up once a week at your curb. Move away from single-use plastic. Again, that's petroleum, and that leaches chemicals that we really don't want in our water, in our food, in our bodies. It's very unhealthy for us. Choose to reuse whenever you can and buy only what you need. This pause that we've been forced to take during the pandemic has given us all an opportunity to kind of reassess what we really need versus what we think we want and what we think makes us happy. It's a great time to think about consumerism and really thinking about, what do I want to do with my money and my time? Do I want to invest in maybe creating a more sustainable future for my children and grandchildren? One of the actions that I'm really proud to be participating in tomorrow is Stop the Money Pipeline. You can find this event on Facebook. You can also find it on the Sustain Facebook page. And we are going to be led by a wonderful group, over 90 organizations that put this together. It's a national digital march to call and insurance companies, and wow, we are, home to more insurance companies than any other state in the United States. So we're going to be calling on them and asking them to stop insuring and stop investing in fossil fuel companies and projects, and to instead ensure our future. So if you wanted to join that, you would be most welcome. And it is completely turnkey. They go through everything with you. They hold your hand and they give you everything you need to take those actions, make those phone calls. They even give you the scripts. It's really wonderful. So this is how you can reach me. We have a weekly newsletter. That's one of the best ways to stay informed. You can sign up for it right on the website. I love being an educator and a consultant and doing events and webinars. We had so many Earth Day events planned, 17. They were all canceled. So I'm really so pleased to be here with you today. Thank you very much. And I think at this time, we want to take some questions.
Yeah, so Annalise, thank you so much. I just wanted to let you
And there's a
know
little
that,
bit of an echo.
okay, let's see if that helps.
Yeah, a lot better.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
great. So Annalise, thank you. We have a few questions and some commentary. You had a photo up and you had some guesses about what that image was. We had a
Yes.
few people who guessed coral reef
Yeah.
and plastic on a seabed. Can you tell us what that was?
Yeah, so does anybody know what coral reef? I'll give you another chance. It's the largest living structure in the entire world. It's made up of living creatures. Anyone?
We
Let's
don't
see.
have any guesses at the
No,
moment.
it's the Great Coral Reef.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And you had a question. So you mentioned a few documentaries. I think there were three. I think the first one was Forks Over Knives, which is about plant-based eating.
Yes.
You also mentioned a documentary about plastic. Can you tell us what the title was?
Right. So there were a couple of different ones that I had. I'm just going to share this again so people can see. Oops, it was on that one. Yeah, so Plastic Wars, Frontline did that, and that's available on PBS. I think I saw it online. You can get that online. And then The Story of Plastic is also available online. These talk about motivators. These are great motivators. You will really sit back and say, holy cow, have we been sold a bill of goods?
Thank you. The last question is about commercial composting. You mentioned that for meat and dairy that you can't do it in your backyard. And in fact, there's even, I know for me, for my like dog disposal bags, it says it has to be done in a commercial composting. Can you tell us what commercial composting is and how they actually handle things like meat or dairy products?
Yeah, so it's part of their feedstock, as they call it. So these commercial composters can take any food scraps whatsoever. They can also take certified compostable items. Only certain ones will take them. So you can speak with Curbside Compost, and you can also speak with Action Container and ask them what containers they'll take. Because again, we're moving away from plastic. You do see a lot of restaurants offering compostable containers. Some are really compostable, others really aren't. They're not certified compostable, so they're very challenging. So what's different about these commercial composting facilities than your backyard is they are heated to a very high temperature so that the bacteria that's in whatever the feedstock is destroyed. So if you have spoiled eggs or spoiled meat or fish or dairy and you're putting it in your pile, that's a static pile. You really need it to be in a hot pile so that it is fully decomposed and it's done in a safe way so that all the bacteria is killed. And you still get the wonderful end product. You still get that rich compost that is gardener's gold.
Thank you so much. Do we in New Canaan have access to a commercial composter?
Yes, you do. Curbside compost and Action
Okay.
Container. Yeah, and many schools are doing composting in their cafeterias. It started in Wilton. So there's a group of schools now together that one of the founders of Wilton Go Green gets together, just teaches schools how to be more sustainable, and really getting the food waste out is really important. Throwing food in the garbage should be illegal. Throwing away good food should be illegal. So the EPA's food recovery hierarchy is the opposite of what we're doing right now. So the first thing you do is get edible food to people in need, and they're growing, as we talked about. Then get it to animals. You can donate it to a farm. As long as they are not composting that for resale, you're fine. If they are, then they need to be permitted as a facility able to compost it. But if they're just feeding it to their animals, it's fine. And then you want to compost it. But the first thing you want to do is reduce the waste. Really be conscious of what you're doing. And we're going to get some really good tips on that today from another presenter.
Great. Thank you so much, Annalise. So I know there might be another few questions that trickle in. We'll try to respond to them via text, and we're going to move forward with the program. Keela, thank you. Keela, do you have our next speaker teed up?
Yes. Thank you, Annalise. Now we're going to pass the torch to our first community member, which is Susan. So Susan, when you're ready. And just be sure to unmute yourself, Susan.
Let me just make sure I can play it. Stop share, right? Okay, wait, what happened? Sorry.
Great, we can see your screen.
I know, but you can see my screen, but I'm not on the right slide, and
I just want to make sure you hit that play from beginning.
Yeah, but I don't have that up here now. I got to go back. Sorry.
No worries.
I will get to it. This is all new to me.
No worries.
This is my screen, my PowerPoint. Do I just go?
You could try the arrows on your keyboard to go backwards if you want a few slides to the beginning. Do you want to try that? Just the arrows on your keyboard?
It's not on play. I just don't know how to get it on play. New share?
Nope, you're already sharing.
Okay.
You want to just use your keyboard arrows? Can you go back a few slides?
Yeah, but it's not going.
No.
Oh, all right. Wait a minute.
Do you want me to let Victor go first and you can play around with it for a second?
Yeah, okay, sorry.
No worries. Victor, do you want to go ahead and start your screen share?
Yeah, sure thing.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Victor Lopez. I'm the facilities manager here at the New Canaan Library. I've also included my email up here. So if anyone wanted to jot anything down and want to reach out for me for any tips or tricks regarding worm composting or vermicomposting as it's more readily known, they could go ahead and do that. First, how did the library get involved with vermicomposting? About a year and a half ago, the library started their own sustainability committee, and we attempted to start traditional composting here in the building. We have about 40 odd staff members that bring in their foods from home and or have lunch here, and they would go ahead and put that in a composting bin for ourselves. We quickly found out that it was very difficult to maintain a traditional compost bin. It requires a lot of work that we didn't really have the time dedicated to do. So after a bit of research, I decided to start vermicomposting and specifically started to work with worms. And let me tell you, it's been such an easy process. This morning alone, I sifted through our bin and I actually acquired 4 gallons worth of compost that we're using around the building, and staffers are coming in to pick up throughout the day. So it's really worth it, and it's very low maintenance. It's not moving forward. I'm gonna stop a share and just gonna restart this real quick. All right, guys, just bear with me for a quick moment. There we go. So why a worm bin? Well, there are dozens of good reasons. One of them are the worm castings, which are really nutrient rich and are great for gardens, whether you're using them for flowers or for edible plants, fruits and vegetables. You could also use those same castings to make worm tea, which if you reach out to me later on, I could go ahead and instruct you how to actually make worm tea. It's a very simple process, and it's a great liquid fertilizer that you could use on a regular basis. It also minimizes the food waste. I know Annalise was speaking about that during her presentation, and I just find it very rewarding to use food to the fullest. Whatever we don't consume, we could go ahead and compost that and then use it into our own gardens. And like I previously mentioned, it's also very easy to use and is low maintenance. And the initial cost isn't very expensive. I think the most expensive part are the actual worms, which are reasonably priced for the amount that you actually receive. So what is it that you need to start a worm bin? Well, first and foremost, you'll need a bin. You can either go ahead and make one yourself. A lot of people use wood or even metals to go ahead and produce their own worm bins, and there are a lot of designs of it available online. You could use one that is readily available in the market, like right here in the top left, you'll see that green stacked system that the library actually uses here. And this is something that I'm going to move forward in using, are large Rubbermaid bins that you could drill holes into, 18 gallons and up, that could go ahead and sustain a growing population of worms and compost. It's also very important to use the right kind of bedding. A lot of people start off with shredded newspaper or cardboard. If you have a traditional compost like we had, you could actually start off with that as well, or coconut coir or peat moss. Or now that we live up here in New England, you could use the fall leaves every autumn and use that as a bedding material for worms as well. And there are a variety of different species of worms that you could use. Most commonly used are red wigglers and night crawlers. There are also blue worms. And one of the largest producers of composting worms is actually Uncle Jim's Worm Farm. And it's really easy to work with that company. You could order them off of Amazon as well. And I believe it's they sell them in increments of 500 worms, 1,000 worms, 2,000 worms. And I think the most expensive is 2,000 worms at about $50, if I remember the pricing correctly. And so how do you actually go and start and set up a worm bin? Well, first and foremost, like anything else, before you undertake it, you want to do your research. You want to read a book. You want to go online and maybe watch some YouTube videos, go read through different articles, and just ask around. Find out who's actually using a vermicompost themselves, and maybe go ahead and ask them directly, what have you found successful? Do you recommend it? Is there anything that you would avoid doing as opposed to anything that you wish you would have known in the beginning? Next is picking the right bin and the right location. Again, I would probably start off with an 18-gallon Rubbermaid bin that you may have lying around the house. And as for location, worms like dark room temperature areas. We here at the library actually have our worm bin in the boiler room. I find that to be the best location for two reasons. It's not a place that gets used often. There's not a lot of people that go in and out of there. So it's always dark. And the second reason is during the winter, we're actually able to, because our boiler is in there, it keeps the room itself at a fairly comfortable temperature for the worms. And during the summer, it's cool enough where they're not overheating. So once you have the bin and the location selected, you want to choose the bedding. We here at the library, we started off with a combination of coconut coir that a lot of, like this right here, that actually you rehydrate and it expands, and you could use that as bedding material. Or, and we also use a combination of the traditional compost that we had going. Next, you want to add the worms, and you'll cover the worms with some unripped newspaper or a cloth. And you're going to want to let them sit for about a week before you actually give them their first feeding. This is done to actually allow them to get used to their new environment and to start to aerate the bedding themselves. And then you want to start them on a regular feeding schedule. I like to feed them about once a week. I let staff come in and during the week and go about their business. Once that bin's filled up, I'll go ahead and build a channel, dig out a channel, put the food scraps in there, and then cover it back up to avoid flies and any unwanted pests from getting into the bin, and also to cover up any smells that may happen. So like I just previously mentioned, you want to feed them on a regular schedule. You also want to keep an eye on the moisture level. If the soil or the bedding gets too moist, the worms will try and get out of there because they're not able to breathe. Also, if the bedding gets too hot, then the worms run the risk of drying out. And in order to help keep the moisture level appropriate, you want to maybe mist the top layer, again, once a week, probably right after you feed them. And it'll also help to keep the worms at a comfortable temperature of 65 through 75 degrees. So anywhere room temperature is really fine. And good goals and signs of a successful worm bin is food is being consumed completely before their next regular feeding. If you find that the food is lasting, is not decomposing or is not being consumed by the worms by your next feeding, maybe you're feeding them way too often or too much. Another good sign is that worms will start to grow in population. So in the back screen right there, you'll find like these little yellowish dots. Those are actually worm eggs. And I have actually found worm eggs in our existing population now, which was one of the first signs that really encouraged me to continue working on this. And actually, after starting the worm bin here at the library, I started to do one at home, and that population is also growing. And obviously, worm castings is what you really want. You want rich black worm castings that you could go ahead and use for your gardens at home.
Victor, can I just interject really quickly? We have a question about that. Can you talk a little bit about migrating the worms, so how you can access the composting and or draining tea?
Yeah. So it really depends on what system you use. If you're using a stack system like we use at the library, and I opted for that style because worms will actually migrate upwards to where the food is being fed. And so when they migrate upwards, they'll actually leave fresh compost on the last stack that they were in. So with the stack system, you just remove the lowest tray, and that way you don't interrupt the worms. In order to sift through it, I actually have some metal wire that I'll actually use to sift the compost. And that way I'll remove any stragglers or anything that's too large to use in the garden, and just toss those worms or uncomposted food back into the pile. There's also other methods I've seen online. One of them is using light. Because worms like it dark, you could actually go ahead and throw the compost and the worms and everything on a flat surface, and the worms will actually dig downwards to get away from the light, and you could go ahead and remove the compost that way. It really does come down to what system you're using. I find it most successful to use a wires to actually separate the compost from the worms, and that way you're not harming the worms either, and you could go ahead and reuse them for the next batch.
Thank you so much. And so we all have access to your email if somebody wants to ask you a specific question about it. I'm really excited about it. I'm actually stopping by tomorrow to pick up some worm castings for my seedlings.
Yeah,
so,
anyone.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, anyone could reach out to me. That's why I provided the email. And yeah, I'm really excited to hear if anyone's starting their own worm bin, and I'm more than happy to help them out to establish it.
Thank you so much, Victor.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to move on to our next speaker. Is Susan ready to go, or are we moving on to Peter?
I'm ready.
Kayla, you're muted.
I think we'll let Susan try real quick, Peter.
Great.
Thanks, Sam.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, and it's on slide 1. Excellent.
Hey, thank you. Sorry about that. This is all new to me. I'm Susan Bergen. I am on the board of the New Canaan Land Trust. Also, I'm a member of the Club and Beautification League. And my sustainable topic today is how to create pollinator-friendly habitats in our own yard. I'm a lifelong gardener and nature enthusiast, and I love to go out and photograph my garden, see what's going on at eye level. I can all these photographs in either my garden or public places in New Canaan, like the Land Trust, the Nature Center, or parks. I've really been inspired by Doug Ptolemy, who is an entomologist at the University of Delaware. He's published several books on the relationship between native plants, insects, and our natural food webs. So he sort of inspired me to take a new look at how I garden, and I don't really spend as much time or focus on how my garden looks as much as how it lives. So I have a quick slideshow to show you. First thing, why should we care about pollinators? 80% or between 80 and 85% of flowering plants worldwide depend on animals for pollination. And about 75% of flowering plants depend on animals, flowering plants that we depend on animals for food, beverage, fiber, and medicine. So if flowers are not pollinated, plants won't set their seeds and they won't reproduce. So basically, sorry about that up there. Without pollinators, life on Earth as we know it would not exist. We would lose not only the plants, but all of the other life that they support. So who are our pollinators? In Connecticut and the Northeast, we have 6 main groups of insect pollinators. We also have ruby-throated hummingbird, but I'm not going to talk about them today. I'm just going to concentrate on 6 insect pollinators. We have bees, butterflies, moths, wasps, beetles, who knew about that, and flower flies. In the lower right-hand corner is the flower fly. As you will see, it looks a lot like a bee. For years, I thought they were bees, but you can tell it isn't because it only has 2 wings. Bees have 4. Bees fold their wings across their back when they're at rest, and flower flies hold them out like an airplane. So what I'm showing you here are pollinators in their adult form. We have to remember that insects have multi-phase life cycles. They lay eggs, hatch into larvae, they become pupa or caterpillars and adults. So when we are thinking about doing pollinator habitats, we have to address all their needs in all phases of their life, in all seasons. So what do they need? Okay, first of all, they need food, obviously. Pollen is basically protein, and nectar is basically sugar or energy. So they need one or both from a variety of plants that bloom successively from early spring till fall. That's what the adults and the baby bees need. The butterflies and moths need native plants to feed their hungry caterpillars. Butterflies and moths have co-evolved with native plants, and the caterpillars can only eat specific plants. They're all different depending on the species. It's very important. They can't just go out and lay their eggs wherever they want. And then the other part of this is that for pollinators, we need a bountiful insect population to feed the larvae of wasps, beetles, and flower flies. So we need flowers, leaves of native plants, and we need insects to feed all phases of their life. So it's not just about flowers. It also needs places to nest, lay eggs, to overwinter and shelter, clean water, and no pesticides. So most pollinators will lay eggs in the rough parts of your yard, under logs, under stones, in leaf mulch, under log pile. They will also overwinter in those areas. Most pollinators do not survive the winter as an adult. They'll die at the end of the season, and they leave behind the next generation in the form of an egg or larva, caterpillar, a chrysalis. It all depends on the individual species, but they spend the winter here in our yards, hibernating in what's called diapause, which is sort of an arrested development. They stop their changing into an adult, and they just stay static until the spring comes and the weather warms again. So we have to think about where they're going to nest and shelter and spend the winter as much as what they need for food. So what should you do to improve your yard? The first thing you should really do is take inventory. And that means you look at the canopy trees you have, you look at the understory trees and shrubs. Most of us have a lot of native canopy trees like oaks, maples, birch, beech, tulip poplar. That's a good list. They are excellent caterpillar host plants. The understory is where a lot of us fall short because for years, landscapers have been putting in exotic landscaping plants from Asia, particularly Japan, Korea, and China. So we need to add more native understory trees. You should see if you have an overabundance of lawn. Can you convert some of it to a garden or a woodland edge or a meadow? You have uncultivated areas with fallen logs, rocks, leaf mulch, ground covers. You have a place to overwinter. And if you have a garden, you have native plants. What I've been trying to do is add every year 2 or 3 new native shrubs. My woods, my property is mostly woods, and I have a lot of winged euonymus, burning bush, which is a terrible invasive native plant. So I'm trying to slowly add a lot of native shrubs, which have flowers, and they also have leaves for caterpillars. So here I have top left clethra, which is summer sweet. It's a native wetland plant here. The Florida dogwood, which is our native species, not the Coosa dogwood that everyone has. Staghorn sumac, and then we have mountain laurel, which is our state flower, viburnum, all kinds of viburnums, winterberry holly. Those are all great shrubs that we can have. And then we have, for flowers, you have bulbs, you have annuals, and perennials. This is my front yard. I use a lot of non-native bulbs to get a jump on spring. Bumblebees are the first bees out early in the spring. They love daffodils, crocus, and snowdrops. They're really easy to grow. You plant them in the fall. They come up in the summer, come up in the spring before the leaves are out. They'll colonize readily. I have in the front of this picture a big colony of hellebores, which are also not native, but I started out with maybe 10 little plants, and it's just taken over the whole hill. They reseed. The green part is evergreen, so you don't have to look at leaves all winter. And the bees absolutely love it, the early bees. So then annuals. Annuals are kind of the showstopper of a garden. They only live 1 year, which makes some people sad, but their whole purpose is to produce tons and tons of flowers and seeds so that they can make sure that the plant species survives after the mother plant dies, fall. So they generally have a very long bloom time, the summer annuals. We have a bowl of pansies here. They are very a good thing to have early in this time of year, early in the spring. Bumblebees love them. Sunflowers, cosmos, zinnias, all are fabulous annual plants that are technically from native to the US. They've probably been hybridized a great deal, but they're native to the US. And then we have perennials, which the backbone of any garden. Perennials live for many years, hopefully. They don't produce as many flowers as annuals, and they generally have a season. So they'll bloom, maybe we'll have early spring blooming perennials, we'll have mid-spring, early summer, late summer into fall. They provide a lot of different kinds of flowers, lots of pollen and nectar for our pollinators. So these 6 plants here that I have put in, you can find probably at any nursery. We have woodland phlox, we have Virginia bluebells, foam flower or tiarella, the ever-blooming bleeding heart, the Dicentra exemia is native to Appalachia. There's an Iris reticulata and spiderwort, all wonderful early spring natives. Then we have summer blooming, coreopsis, great blue lobelia with a tiger swallowtail, milkweed, purple coneflowers, Simicifuga, and black-eyed Susan.
Thank you so much, Susan. So we've got some really great feedback. Somebody wanted to note how beautiful your front garden was and appreciated your philosophy about caring for your garden. And there's been some requests for us to put together a list. So I know we're doing a follow-up email with resources and books. And so,
Right.
Susan, would you be able to help us put together? There's a request for a list of plants and flowers.
Okay, sure, I can do
Traits
that.
you would recommend and deer,
Okay.
for instance.
Okay.
Terrific.
I just have a few more slides.
We're gonna, Susan, just one more minute before we have to move on to Peter in the spirit of lightning talks.
Okay, so anything in the mint family is fabulous. One of my favorite summer plants is dopie weed. It's big and it overtakes your garden, but it has fabulous flowers for pollinators. And the king of all is goldenrod, which doesn't cause hay fever, as people believe. It is just an absolute magnet for pollinators. And here's my list of books. There's 2 by Doug Ptolemy that I really, really like. And then the other one, Pollinators of Native Plants, which I think 2 of them you can get on the Hoopla Digital Library, Doug Ptolemy ones. Okay. All right, I guess I'm done because.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So much information, amazing. Peter, we'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Peter. Susan, can you undo your screen? Thank you.
Go.
I'm Peter Hansen, a New Canaan resident for 56 years, trying to be green. I have 3 hacks. The simplest is walking. There's no cost and lots of benefits. Walking is good for the planet and good for me, and it's enjoyable. It's good for the planet. There's less pollution, from vehicle emissions. There's less wear on roads. There's less noise from my vehicle. There's less maintenance and depreciation on my vehicle. And there's reduced traffic in New Canaan. Walking is good for me. It's exercise. It's good for my heart, my brain, my mental attitude, my muscles. And I get to see nature. I hear songbirds. I see flowers, trees, shrubs. And I see friends. We wave these days. Also, policemen and public works department drivers wave. I'm a familiar pedestrian. Friends often stop and offer me a ride. No thanks, I need the exercise, I say. I started 5 years ago after jogging around the block 2 miles daily for 40 years. Quickly, I realized that walking could have a destination, a benefit in addition to exercise. I did not have to wear my jogging outfit. I did not have to get sweaty. I could pick up a book at the library. I could walk up our lovely main street. I could attend the Advertiser Coffee at the Museum and Historical Society, Fridays at 9 a.m. I could attend the Men's Club meeting at St. Mark's, Fridays at 10 a.m. I could also photograph flowers, architecture, hanging baskets, and fall colors. The cost of walking is negligible. Comfortable shoes. I wear my jogging shoes. A visible shirt or coat for drivers to see me crossing Main Street, Cherry Street, Main Street again. Friends' reactions are positive. I saw you walking Tuesday. How I walk, I wear something visible, a bright color. Drivers can be distracted by many things, including other vehicles. I do not walk at dawn or dusk or in the dark when driver visibility is poor. I walk on the sidewalk or walk opposing traffic if there is no sidewalk. I do not wear AirPods or earphones. I listen to birds. And for approaching traffic, I assume the driver does not see me at the crosswalk or stop sign. He may be distracted. I take my iPhone. It's a pedometer and tells me how far I've walked today, this week, and this month. And it can summon a ride in the rain. It can also spur me to walk further or more often. I enjoy myself. I'm doing something good for the planet and for myself. My second hack let's see. Come on. Is a product choice, a bit more expensive, but with a payback, and good for both the planet and me. There we go. The tiny print at the base of an LED light says LED, and its wattage and the kelvins, that's the color of the light that it will emit. An LED light is good for the planet. It uses just 15% of the electricity of an incandescent bulb. 60% of the electricity of a fluorescent. It gives off no heat that taxes your air conditioner in the summer. An LED light is good for me. There's no hum like a fluorescent. There's no flicker like a fluorescent. It comes on instantly and it gives better light. LED lights come in 3 popular colors: warm, daylight, or cool. These colors are actually measured in kelvins: 3,500, 5,000, and 6,500 Kelvin. Warm, yellowish light relaxes you. It's good for your circadian rhythm. It will not keep you awake at bedtime. Incandescent bulbs give warm light. Warm light is good for after dinner reading and talking and for the bedroom. Cool, bluish light is good for reading and learning. Good for an office, a study, a library, a desk. Daylight is best for color rendition. How does it look in the real world? It's good for a bathroom or a kitchen. What's the real color of this makeup, this food? Some LED bulbs and fixtures are adjustable as to color. One bulb can emit either warm or cool or daylight. We save electricity and we save bulb costs. LED bulbs last 20 or more years. We save bulb installations. Ceiling lights, outdoor floodlights require a ladder to install. LED bulbs are available in all sizes, including candelabra, table lamp bulbs, ceiling fixtures, flood bulbs, spotlights, outdoor flood, and outdoor fixtures. They're available in various light outputs measured in lumens, often expressed as equivalent to a 100-watt incandescent or whatever. Friends and family like our LED lights. I need brighter light for reading. The print on labels is getting smaller. Karen and I sleep better with warm lights in the bedroom. A motion-activated LED nightlight, warm, guides us to the bathroom at night. LED bulbs are saving us money. The payback is about 4 years on a well-used light. We started going to LED bulbs as soon as they became available about 7 years ago. We replaced all our bulbs as soon as we could. We did not wait for them to burn out. Costco had Eversource instant rebates on LED bulbs and fixtures and still does. LED bulbs are good for the planet and good for me.
1 minute warning, Peter. I know you have one more awesome topic, so you could just go through this one a little bit quicker.
My last hack is solar panels. Solar panels are good for the planet and good for your pocketbook. We have 12 solar panels on our garage. We put them up 5 years ago. I invested $14,000 in these panels, and I'm getting a 7.5% return. I could have actually leased my garage roof to an investor and gotten a monthly lease payment or a reduced electricity rate. I chose to be the investor. We like our panels. Our neighbors like them. They're not visible from the road. I don't think they would bother anybody anyway. And this turns out to be a simple hack. There's no maintenance to the panels. We've had them 5 years with no problems, and we have garnered the savings that we sought. I'm done.
Thank you, Peter. Awesome. So we'll hold questions till the end if you have any questions for Peter. Next, we have Robin Bates-Mason.
Hi, okay, let me get this up here real quick. Okay, so I'm just giving you some quick, just 4 hacks of what I do to try to do low waste living. A lot of these will be put up on our Planet New Canaan website by this weekend, because I have a lot more than this. So let's start off. Sorry. Okay, so according to an EPA report, and this is from 2013, Americans produce 4.4 pounds of waste per day. That is, over 1,600 pounds per year, 3 times the global average. Also, during our recent pandemic, according to City Carting, they are currently dealing with 3 times the amount of garbage than usual. So even during this time, there are ways that we can lessen our garbage. So this first item is we use bar soap for hand washing and in the shower to save on packaging, though I know that some people are uncomfortable, especially right now with COVID-19 with hand soap. So this is where this product has made a big difference in our house, and we put it in our guest bathroom, even though we don't have guests right now. This is a foaming hand soap, and it comes in a sturdy dispenser, and you just drop in a tablet in with warm water and wait for the soap, wait for the tablet to dissolve. I order multiple packs, but the great thing is that after, the only thing that gets thrown out is in that picture is that small packet. And the nice thing is I don't have to go to the store to buy more soap recently. Next we have, this is the same concept, and there are many companies that do this. This is my glass cleaner, my bathroom cleaner, and my just all-purpose cleaner. And it's the same thing. I drop in a tablet into these sturdy containers, and sorry about that. And when they dissolve, they're great for cleaning, and I don't have all the packaging left over. The packaging for your Windex or something like that is plastic. Technically, you can recycle the plastic, obviously limited amount of times, but the tops you cannot. So right there, these alone save a lot in packaging for me. Next is, I do buy my paper towels at Costco in a large pack, but actually a large pack will last me pretty much almost a year in our family. I clean with rags, and I keep rags in one bag. All the clean ones and the dirty ones go in the second one. I do wash them with bleach to disinfect them, but it does save me from going to the grocery store and having to get paper towels. Also, the not pictured newspapers. We save our newspaper, we get it once a week. And what we do is we use that for cleaning mirrors and glass. Really effective, and it just cuts down on waste. And then the last on this, second to last, is how I wash my clothes now. I want to avoid the plastic jugs of liquid laundry. I have been using powder detergent. However, actually the packaging has plastic lining on it, so I couldn't recycle them or compost them. So I found this company. They make these pods, and what I do is it does get shipped to me, but the packaging is all goes into my compost when I'm done. So other than having to ship to my house, very minimal waste. Next, what I have is, there's my laundry. This is how actually I dry my laundry. I hang most of our laundry in the morning. Usually it's dry by mid-afternoon. Dryers use a lot of energy, and we do notice that our electric bill goes way down after we started hang drying. And last, these are my dryer balls. So when I do dry, what I do is I put these in, and they prevent laundry from clumping in the dryer. The balls retain the heat they receive from the dryer and boost the drying process. So laundry dries more effectively because it's not all clumping together. So it does dry a little faster. Also, the nice thing is if people use any fabric softener, you don't need to if you have laundry balls. And let me get out. So that's all I have. If we do have a lot more hacks, then we'll be putting it on our website, planetnewcanaan.org, and you can follow us on Facebook. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. I'm next. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have 3 hacks to share. So I called mine reducing waste because like Robin said, you know, we're all moving towards zero waste and a lot of us are not there yet. My first one is more of a fun one that I just wanted to share with anyone who is a crafter out there. I call it my quarantine craft of napkins. I've been living in my apartment here in Norwalk for a little over a year now, and I can proudly say I've never bought paper towels, but I was buying those paper napkins, which are kind of just a waste of paper. So I used fabric that I already had laying around the house. And one thing that I find that works for me, and I would guess that would work for a lot of people with these sustainable lifestyle switches, is to make it mimic or make it be like the thing that you're used to as much as you can, so that it's not really an inconvenience for you to switch to this more sustainable product. So by that, I mean, I'll show it in these pictures. This shows it a little bit better. I wanted to still be able to use my same napkin holder, which is shown on the left. And so I wanted these to be able to sort of fold like I was used to when I have people over. I wanted to be able to sort of slide it under a plate and have it show like a napkin. So that's my first hack. My second hack was a fun one for me to make this switch. Prior to coming to New Canaan to be a librarian, I was in grad school and I was living with some other roommates. And when you live with other people, sometimes you're just sort of doing something because that's what you all agree on and you have to compromise in certain ways. So I finally parted with my Brita from college now that I live alone. So the reason why I made that switch is because those little Brita filters, as some of you may know, are plastic and they don't really last that long. Only 2 months for those little plastic cartridges that contain a little amount of charcoal in them to bond to toxins. And mine was draining super slow as well. So I drink a lot of water. I was sick of waiting on it. I was sick of purchasing it all the time. And I didn't want to keep using plastic in this way. So what I did, I listed it here. I did some research and I found that using a glass pitcher and these charcoal sticks was a lot more sustainable. These sticks last up to 4 months instead of the 2 months like Brita recommends for the filters. And when I'm done with it, I can just bury it or toss it in a compost pile. They will break down and it's like a plastic-free solution. I will also say that they sell these charcoal sticks in smaller kind of sizes so that you can do it for like a single water bottle if you were going camping, if you were going hiking and you wanted to just like fill up from like a water fountain but kind of wanted that kind of freshwater taste. They also sell these for on the go. My last one is sort of like a mindfulness exercise that I started doing a few months ago, and it's a food waste journal exercise. And you might not be able to see this super clearly, so I'll just reiterate that the columns are representing the date, the food, why I had to dispose of it, how I disposed of it, and the packaging that was involved. So again, living alone, we all know that we should never shop hungry, but you should also shop knowing that, I mean, as one person, I'm not gonna be able to eat everything that I wish I could buy. I mean, everything looks good when you're in the grocery store. So this is just a way for me to be more mindful and just realize what I was throwing out and why. Was it that I bought too much of it, or did I forget about it in my fridge? So on and so forth. The red box in the top right, you're gonna see how crazy I am with my lists, but I find that this works for me where I'm putting a little reminder to myself, like, hey, Kayla, eat these foods first. They're open, they're gonna spoil if you don't eat them first, so that I'm not going and opening a new jar of something or a new box of something. Finally, with the packaging, like Annalise said earlier in her talk, I'm always trying to avoid buying things that come in plastic containers. I much rather buy in the plastic or the aluminum since they're infinitely recyclable. Finally, I'll just plug this book. It's available through New Canaan Library's Hoopla Digital Library. This, a couple of us New Canaan Library staffers read as a group, and I found it a very fast read and a great way to start using these different hacks in your life. So thank you. I'll turn it over to Mickey.
Great. Thanks, Kayla. So I'm going to share, can everybody hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me fine. Okay, so I'm going to share really fast 3 life hacks that have really worked out well for my family. The first is we're a 1-car family in suburbia. The second is we are obsessive reusers of plastic bags. And the third is that we avoid fast fashion even though we live on a fast fashion budget. So the first one was really the most impactful and kind of the most complex. Before we moved to New Canaan from New York City, we decided we were going to be a 1-car family. And while we moved to New Canaan for the schools, like a lot of other people, the tipping, the deciding factor was really the town center itself. So we live right in town in a condo. We are a very short walk from public transportation and easy car rental at the train station whenever we need it, which is not often, but a couple times a year maybe. We are plugged into the town's terrific network of sidewalks, which means we walk. Biking is really easy, and that has meant a lot of independence for my kids from a really young age when they were walking and biking to school and coming and going from activities. And for my husband and me, because we enjoy that. And it also freed us up to not have to be driving our kids all the time. Living in town also means that we actually have a much smaller footprint. We live in a condo, which means we share resources with all our neighbors, like parking, landscaping, all kinds of things. We use less energy as a result, and there's a lot less maintenance and time and money spent. And once we knew we were just going to be a 1-car family, we had to really decide, well, what is that car going to be? And had to think really carefully about all of the things that it had to do for us. And so we ended up picking a Prius because it just worked. It accommodated all of us, including the dirty dog when he's come back from hiking with us, so he can be in the hatchback and not on my lap. We can move a queen-size mattress if we need to. We never paid for parking in New York City. It was like a matter of pride or ego or whatever. So it's really easy to park because it's small, and it's super cheap to maintain. We bought the car used because we took into account the embedded energy that was already in that structure. And even though it's kind of old, it's a 2008 Prius, it's still getting 46 miles to the gallon. So the second hack, we are obsessive reusers of plastic bag. I have literally not bought a plastic bag in over 20 years. This little recycled wood rack is the greatest gizmo. It dries our plastic bags. Most of the time we just have to rinse them out a little bit and stick them on one of those little kind of fingers, and they dry. We use all kinds of bags, bread bags, frozen food bags, those annoying little bags you get at the dentist, and they put one toothbrush in it, or one little kind of travel floss. It's absurd. So we use all those bags, any bag you can think of, and we use it to shop for produce and to store produce in the fridge at home. We use it for food on the go. We cut it up and use it as plastic wrap, which we masking tape or rubber band around whatever vessel the food is in. Of course, dog waste. We really don't have a need to buy poop bags. And you'll see some pictures here, like those plastic bags with zippers that are really heavy duty, that sheets and towels come in. You can use those for travel, any plastic bag, shoes, anything and everything. And the last one is how we avoid fast fashion. Fast fashion is defined as like throwaway, kind of like disposable clothing, like Old Navy, J. Crew, Zara, which is basically what we can afford. So like, how do we cut down on this? And the first thing is we buy less. We really do think about, like, do I need this? Do I want this? Do I love it? How am I going to feel about it in 2 hours or 2 weeks or 2 years? How does it fit in with what I already have? We also buy things used. We have some really great consignment and thrift shops in the area. It is super easy to buy used on eBay or, you know, other things online. We also swap a lot with friends and family, which is kind of fun, you know, like this doesn't work for me, but I think it would really work for you. So the next thing is laundry. Laundry, I have learned that as Americans, we over launder our clothes. We wash our clothes when really what we want is to just refresh our clothes. You can not over launder clothing by just hanging it on a valet overnight, or hanging it from a hanger in the shower, or just drape it over a really lovely chair in your room, just to kind of give it an airing out if it's not actually soiled and in need of cleaning. When I do the laundry, I use the echo setting on the laundry machine, and I select cold tap, and I wash every other week in cold water, not sheets and towels. Those I do in warm water, but cold water every other, and it actually helps take care of the clothing as well. And lastly, I do use the dryer, but I hang dry the stuff I really care about, like my husband's work shirts. I hang dry things that I love, wool socks, you know, anything that I can. And my kids like that athletic fabric that's like really thin nylon. I mean, that stuff practically comes out of the dryer dry already. So I hang dry that, because why not? And it extends the life of the clothing. Buy better. You hear this a lot, right? Don't buy fast fashion, buy better. Well, better is really, really a lot more expensive. And we do buy better, but we have to be very careful about where we put those dollars. So we tend to spend the money on shoes, because those are really important. We are big walkers. We need to be comfortable. Those shoes have got to be good for our knees, for our backs. We got to keep moving. So we put the money behind shoes. And certainly if there's like one item, you know, that you really want to splurge on, go ahead and do it. And the last thing we do is we mend our clothes, which is really fun. I'm not a seamstress. I am not super crafty, but I love this new trend in mending, which is all the rage now. And it is something that's kind of taken off, not only for the environment, because it's better for the planet, but also, you know, with Marie Kondo, et cetera, it's a way of healing the planet as well as healing ourselves, because we are being asked to rethink our throwaway culture. What are we doing? Throwing everything away. Why is everything disposable? So mending is a way of kind of being mindful. And it originated in ancient Japan, this tradition, sashiko. It's called sashiko, or sometimes sashiko boro. And it refers obviously to it means little stabs in Japanese, and it refers to the way that it looks. You'll see on the screen here, these patterns. Sashiko can be super elaborate, like an art piece. This is fairly simple. I don't do this. My mending is really simple. It ends up looking like a crooked little smile, you know, like one little mended line. And sometimes I'll do like a different color thread, because the mending is kind of supposed to show. It's like a way of saying, like, I care. And it also reminds me of Leonard Cohen's, you know, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So anyway, that's what I've got.
Thank you, Mickey. Okay, I think I'm next, right? And I'm last. So first of all, if you're still with us, thank you. It means you really care about being sustainable. So I'm Sam Connell. I am a reference librarian. I'm also a teen services librarian. And I'm just going to share one super quick hack and also my perspective. I'm also a mom of 2 teenagers. They're athletes, and my husband travels pretty frequently, and I also work full time. So what I just wanted to throw out at you is my #1 hack / recommendation is to take this and approach this in parts. So for me, I tried to get my family on board to take a year, and every month or so we would focus on one aspect of our life we could really look at. I love that Kayla shared her journal, so we sort of applied that same thinking to one aspect. So the first month was easy. It was the low-hanging fruit. It was water bottles, and by asking my kids what they really wanted, it was cold portable water. So we bought glass bottles. We have a water delivery service. We make sure we refrigerate it, and it solved all of those problems. Also, I really love that Annalise shared a lot about the lawn. I personally ripped out a perennial bed of flowers I don't really like. I don't like daylilies. I know that's weird. They're orange. I don't like them. And I just planted fruits and vegetables. So that's one thing we did over the course of 1 month. We switched to just looking at things we do a lot of. My son drinks about a gallon or so of milk a week, and instead of cartons, we have a milk delivery service. So I really strongly urge everyone to sort of look at one aspect of their life. And again, 1 month we just really looked at how we ate, and we looked at how we could shift to plant-based eating. And that was a huge part of it. And our grocery shopping, our bags, and we had all these bags that we always forgot to bring to the grocery store. So just my recommendation is take the full year, not just Earth Day today, but look at a different aspect of your life. How can you make it better? We had a lot of fails. My kids hated the tablet toothpaste, but we also had some great successes. So today I'm going to share just one success, and hopefully I'll share my screen correctly. Okay, great. So in theory, can everybody see my screen? Okay, great. So I'm gonna shift it to present. So my one big hack, and I used to be a chef, so anything that I can do in the kitchen, I'm all about, and that's homemade laundry detergent. Like I said, with the toothpaste, we really tried the tablets, but my kids were like, oh, you know, my teeth don't feel clean. What I love about this recipe is that with a house full of athletes, the laundry is super clean. Everybody loves it. My husband actually prefers it, and I'm super excited about it. So the recipe is really simple. It's 2 cups of superwashing soda, 2 cups of borax, and you want a bar each of Fells Naphtha and Dr. Bronner's Pure Castile soap. And I add essential oils to really boost the scents. I just wanted to quickly walk everybody through these ingredients. When my best friend shared this with me a few years ago, I didn't even know what Fells Naphtha was. So I'm just gonna show you what these look like. This is entirely plastic free. Superwash soda comes in a cardboard box, and you can recycle the box. I find that my favorite place to get this is actually Walter Stewart's in New Canaan. I can't seem to find these ingredients at Acme. And borax, also I get at Walter Stewart's, and this also comes in a cardboard box, and it has a lot of other uses, and it's not full of chemicals that you might find with other laundry products or cleaners. So Fells Naphtha, this is, first of all, kind of an obscure thing, but it's a bar laundry soap. And I know that Walter Stewart's carried it, well, prior to the COVID crisis, but that's where I would get it. And I would get a couple of bars of that. And Pure Castile soap. This is actually what my family uses. There was a month where we just sort of looked at our toiletries, and we shifted as much makeup and paper products and tissue and cleaners. And one of the things we did was we switched to bar soaps. We do not purchase any soap that comes in a plastic container. And we've even found bar shampoo, which you can get at Whole Foods or order online. And a lot of my family members actually prefer that to all of that plastic that comes in shampoo. Conditioner is a bit of a struggle. It's a work in progress. But what I love about this bar soap is that it comes in lots of different fragrances, and it's mostly natural. And so what I do is I will stock up on this and have it in the house for my kids. But if I need to make soap for laundry soap, I'll pick one of these and I'll use the same essential oil. So whether it's lavender or lemon, I'll use that essential oil to boost that scent. And essential oils. I actually have quite a few essential oils around the house, and there's lots of different companies. And that's about it. I'm gonna stop my share and show you the process. What you have to be really careful about is that you want to actually grate the soaps with a box grater. But before I get to that, I just want to show you this purchase of shame. My husband bought this. Can you see this? Not really. I have to be in front of it. There you go. This entire container, it's probably like 1.5 ounces of plastic, and it's full of chemicals. And this is sort of that impulse, not a big deal, but I will tell you that now I just make my laundry detergent and I put it in a refillable container, and I put a little tablespoon in there. And I actually had this on my desk yesterday and pulled it off to do laundry. But it's really easy to do. What you have to be careful about is that you do have to grate the soap, because if you don't grate the soap, it can get super gummy. And what you want to do is just grate down the soap and put it in a food processor and blend it with the powders. My son needed to do laundry, and he asked me, and typically I would have jumped in the car, ran out to get laundry detergent, and I actually was able to grate this bar of soap, which everyone is trying to get me to do right now, but I'm not going to put you guys through that. You want to grate it on this? Hold on. Can you see it? Okay. You want to put it on these holes. You don't want sheets of it, and this would be a disaster, the tiny little grating. So you want it on the big holes, and it grates like a hard cheese. If you can work your way through Gruyere, you can get this done in 5 minutes. So that's my sustainable kitchen hack for laundry. So before we sort of sign off, there was one question, and I think the question was for Robin. Robin, we have a question for you about your foaming hand soap and cleaner tablets. They wanted to know if it was plant-based or if it was made with chemicals.
I believe it says there's no tox. Unfortunately, I don't have that in front of me. The company is Blue Land. I believe it's supposed to be non-toxic. I don't know if it's plant-based. I do like the 7th generation, which is plant-based, but there's so much plastic involved. I had to kind of decide between the two. So I've gone now plastic-free to get rid of that. But it doesn't have harsh smell to it. So, but that's a good thing, and I will look that up.
Sam, someone wants to know if you could put your recipe back up once more. Are you going to include that in that thing we send out, or do you want to share your screen once more?
Sure, I can include it. Let me throw it up. I actually know it off the top of my head. It is 2 cups of superwash soda. It's 2 cups of borax.
Okay.
It's 1 bar of Fell's naphtha grated, and it's 1 bar of pure Castile soap.
Great.
Which is not.
And do you do essential oil too?
And I add 10 to 12 drops of an essential oil. So if I grate down this one tonight, which we are low, this is citrus, I would add 10 to 12 drops of lemon essential oil. And if I did lavender, I would do lavender. So what's really popular in my family is the boys seem to really like the lemon. My daughter loves the lavender. I like the lavenders for our linens and our towels. And sometimes I'll just throw in like eucalyptus or something like that.
Great. Does anyone have any last few questions before we sign off?
This was so much fun.
I feel like we just did like a science fair.
And we had such great panelists. Thank you to all the awesome panelists.
Happy Earth Day to everyone. And we're getting a few comments, just great event. Thank you. So I guess we'll wrap up there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kayla.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone,
Thanks,
for participating.
Bye.